3 men vanished from the most secure prison on Earth. Nobody has seen them since. On the morning of June 12, 1962, guards at Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary discovered 3 empty cells. The pillows were still warm. Painted papier-mâché heads with real human hair stared back from the bunks. And somewhere beyond those concrete walls, beyond the watchtowers and the freezing currents of San Francisco Bay, Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin had disappeared into the Pacific fog. The escape triggered the largest police investigation the island had ever seen. The FBI launched a manhunt spanning years. A courtroom inquiry examined every shred of evidence. And yet, more than 6 decades later, this Alcatraz escape remains officially unsolved. The question that haunts investigators, families, and millions of fascinated observers is devastatingly simple. Did they make it? Alcatraz was never just a prison. It was a statement. Opened as a federal penitentiary in 1934, the Rock housed America's most dangerous and escape-prone inmates, men who had already broken out of other facilities. The message was clear. No one leaves. The island sits 1¼ miles from the San Francisco shoreline, surrounded by currents that can reach 8 knots and water temperatures that hover around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Hypothermia sets in within minutes. At least 36 men attempted escape during Alcatraz's 29 years of operation. Nearly all were captured, shot, or presumed drowned. But Frank Morris was not an ordinary inmate. With an IQ reportedly measured at 133, Morris had been in and out of institutions since age 13. He'd escaped from other prisons before being sent to the one place designed to hold men exactly like him. John and Clarence Anglin, brothers from rural Georgia, were convicted bank robbers who had also attempted escapes from previous facilities. When all 3 arrived at Alcatraz, they found themselves housed in adjacent cells on Block B, and they began to plan. What happened next took over a year to execute. If stories like this fascinate you, consider subscribing. We uncover a new one every week. Using stolen spoons and a makeshift drill fashioned from a broken vacuum cleaner motor, the 3 men chipped away at the deteriorating concrete around the ventilation grills at the backs of their cells. Night after night, they worked. The salt air of the bay had weakened the concrete over decades, and they exploited every crack. They concealed their progress with painted cardboard and a false wall made from stolen materials. Above the cell block, they discovered an unguarded utility corridor that led to the prison roof. This became their staging area. Here, in secret, they constructed one of the most ingenious components of the escape, a 6-by-14-foot inflatable raft made from over 50 stolen raincoats, vulcanized together using heat from the prison steam pipes. They also fashioned life vests from the same material. They studied magazines about water survival. They made wooden paddles. And on the night of June 11, 1962, they squeezed through their widened vents for the last time. A 4th conspirator, Alan West, was unable to remove his ventilation grill in time and was left behind. He later provided investigators with extensive details of the plan. Details that remain our primary source for what happened inside those cells. The 3 men climbed through the utility corridor, accessed the roof, and descended the building's exterior. They crossed the island to the northeast shore, and then they entered the water. What happened after that moment is where certainty ends and the mystery begins. The FBI and prison authorities conducted an exhaustive search. Coast Guard boats swept the bay. Aircraft surveyed the shoreline. Divers explored the waters. They found a paddle. They found a waterproof packet containing photographs and addresses belonging to the Anglins. They found remnants of a raincoat. They never found bodies. The official FBI conclusion, issued in 1979, was that the men most likely drowned in the frigid, turbulent waters of the bay. The case was formally closed. But most likely is not certainly. And the evidence that has emerged since tells a far more complicated story. In 2013, the San Francisco Police Department received a letter purportedly written by John Anglin. It read, in part, "My name is John Anglin. I escaped from Alcatraz in June 1962 with my brother Clarence and Frank Morris. I'm 83 years old and in bad shape. I have cancer." The letter offered to turn himself in if he could receive medical treatment. The FBI reopened analysis of the letter. Results were inconclusive, but this was not the only evidence suggesting survival. The Anglin family has long maintained the brothers lived. Relatives have produced Christmas cards they claim were sent by John and Clarence in the years following the escape. A photograph surfaced, never conclusively authenticated, apparently showing the two brothers in Brazil in 1975. Robert Anglin, before his death in 2010, reportedly told family members he had been in contact with his brothers for years. Then there is the science. In 2014, a team of researchers used computer modeling to analyze the bay's tidal patterns on the night of June 11th. Their conclusion was striking. If the men launched from the northeast shore of Alcatraz and departed within a narrow window before midnight, the currents could have carried them toward Marin County, not out to sea. The margin was slim, but it was there. The US Marshals Service, which assumed jurisdiction from the FBI, considers the case active. Officially, arrest warrants remain outstanding for all three men. As of this recording, Frank Morris would be 98 years old. John Anglin would be 94. Clarence, 93. No confirmed sighting has ever been documented. No verified DNA match has surfaced. No death certificates have been issued. The case exists in a kind of permanent limbo. Too unresolved to close. Too cold to actively investigate. The prison itself shut down in 1963, just 14 months after the escape. Rising maintenance costs, salt-corroded infrastructure, and, some would argue, the embarrassment of the breakout made Alcatraz untenable as a functioning penitentiary. What makes this case endure is not simply the audacity of the escape, it is the silence afterward. 3 men entered the water and were never confirmed dead or alive. Every piece of evidence points in 2 directions simultaneously. The currents say death was likely. The family says otherwise. The letter says survival. The FBI says inconclusive. And the bay keeps its secrets beneath water that remains as cold and dark as it was on that June night 63 years ago. 3 ordinary criminals built an extraordinary raft from raincoats and spoons, outwitted one of the most secure institutions ever constructed, and vanished so completely that the most powerful investigative agencies in the world still cannot say with certainty what happened to them. Perhaps they drowned within minutes. Perhaps they lived out quiet lives under assumed names in a country that would never think to look. The truth is almost certainly out there. It may simply be that no one who knows it is willing to talk. Subscribe. We investigate a new unsolved case every single week. And next time, we are going somewhere even darker. A locked room, a missing woman, and a confession that made everything worse.